I'm your host, Farouk Basha, and today I got a special guest. His name is Ionutz. Ionutz, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, yes, my name is Ionutz and I am a so-called designer and I'm the founder of a non-named agency at the moment with my partner who is also my best friend, and we specialize in branding and web design and development.
Right.
Yeah,
Ionutz, quick question. You said you're from Moldova, right?
yeah.
Is Twitter a common sort of platform for people in Moldova? Do people use that to kind of grow their their personal brand's personal identity over there?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think I'm the
So
first person.
what's your story to sort of figuring out the platform and kind of finding yourself on this platform?
So before Twitter, I was actually writing on Medium, and I grew an audience there. But I kind of niched down too much into the reading and the books, I guess, niche, which didn't really interest me after a few months. So I decided to give up, but start writing on Twitter because one of my friends from Medium was writing on Twitter, and I was like, let me check it out. And yeah, since then I write on Twitter.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I guess with Twitter, your strategy was more focused sort of on actually targeting a predominant US sort of audience. Was that sort of the approach that you were thinking of?
Not at the start. I was just trying to figure out how the platform works and just write whatever and not niche down. But with time, I realized that there is a lot of potential, in getting leads, clients throughout Twitter, and that's where I decided to implement my design skills and
Right.
make some money.
And how long have you been sort of designing? Have you always been into sort of personal branding, or did you start in a different approach at first and then kind of leaned into that?
I'm actually a freelancer, I guess, with a background in freelance as a designer, and I started personal branding as a fulfillment, a passion project, I would say, and I kind of combined the two, and people seem to like it, and I even more. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And so sort of like what's how long have you been doing exactly personal branding? Because I see that you've been working with a bunch of people on Twitter. Is that sort of like, has it been in the past year, or have you been doing it for much longer?
In terms of personal branding and redesigning profiles, like editing pictures and designing banners for Twitter, I actually started in April because I saw a guy who was, doing this, and I was like, I can charge more and make better design than him. So I was like, there's
I
an
love it.
opportunity. Yeah, yeah.
So your
So
approach was more to sort of see what the demand in the market is for such services, and then try to actually see where you can sort of like actually add some value.
exactly, and it also was like a kind of storytelling in becoming a designer public. So the basic idea was like to start with banners, design them and develop my graphic design skills, and afterwards shift towards branding and now websites as well. So people see the levels, I guess, the journey that I've been through, and I think it's more fun this way, leveling
Right.
up your skills and
Yeah.
trying something new. Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about sort of like how you got started with writing. Because from what I saw on your Twitter, it's like there was a point where you were writing a lot. Like every day you were writing these long posts. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
bit more about this journey, sort of, and how did you reach where you are today? Where you're on Twitter, you have a big audience. A lot of people are engaging with your tweets organically. So what's the journey been so far with this?
It's been a long journey. I am not as active as I used to because I started getting clients organically, I guess, just from my highlights or case studies. But before, when I didn't have clients, I was going ham on writing. I was writing threads about how to design your banner, how to edit your photos, or how to take a picture, or like valuable stuff, but also growth related and engagement related, like everyone is doing. But with time I decided to niche down as I have a big audience and they kind of enjoy the combination of design and whatever I write, without the goal of getting you know uh, 100 likes per post or anything like that. Now it's more I do whatever I want. Honestly, yeah. Um, What was again the question? The exact question?
Yeah,
I
no,
kind of
just sort of
drifted.
like the approach. Like, you were writing a lot, and like the idea at first was to kind of get a lot of clients, I guess, as you were saying. And
Yeah.
then over time, you start getting clients more organically. You're still writing, but it's not as heavy, which it's a good actually way to kind of lean into the next question. So I see that you worked with some big influencers. I see you worked with Clifton, who's known as
Yeah.
Legacy Builder, over 250,000 followers on Twitter. You
Yeah.
helped him with kind of rebranding his page. What would you say was your turning point that led you to working with these influencers? Like, was there a specific person that you worked with that kind of helped you with that, or was it that you grew your personal brand and people started getting attention? What really helped to kind of start working with some of these big influencers?
Probably a lot of people won't like the answer, but it was luck because I wrote the thread on how to design a banner and I posted it. 2 hours passed and there was no traction, only 5 likes, 500 views. And I was like, it's a flop, like I
Yeah.
messed up. And then there's this guy who was a friend of mine. I mean, he still is, Glenn, and he retweeted the thread just because he felt like this. And one of the followers of Glenn's was Clifton LB, and he reached out to me and asked if I do redesigns, which then was actually my first client. He was actually my first client. Yeah, and I was like,
Wow.
how
So
much should I charge you? Yeah,
you kind of went straight to the top then, you worked with the
exactly.
top dog and
Yeah,
then kind of started working with everybody else.
yeah.
So in terms of that, I mean, you have that one case study now. How does it kind of change the whole approach when other people reach out to you, or when you reach out to other people and they saw that you worked with people like Clifton? Like, how does it help you in terms of like the sales process itself?
To be honest, having such a case study like Clifton is, as I said, lucky because I didn't actually have to DM anyone ever for a redesign. And I'm not saying this to brag, it's just how it worked for me. Because people
Yeah.
see my posts and they just reach out. But yes, definitely, if you have a case study like LB, that's the best way to, DM someone for a redesign because it's LB, it's like this big guy, so it's huge authority. Yeah.
And when you're talking to somebody, let's say let's say somebody reached out to you, they want to build their personal, they want to kind of do a bit of rebranding. Like, is it that they usually sort of like when they hear that you've worked with these big people, does it become easier to kind of sell the whole service, or what's the approach? Like, how do these case studies help you during the sales process itself?
I mean, honestly, every client that came from Clifton, like they said, like, I like what you did with Clifton, or like Clifton recommended me, they weren't really negotiating. They were just like, okay, let's do it. So it
So,
was an
so what's the
easier
price?
process.
What's the pricing like then in this case? Like, do you just offer like a fixed price for everybody, like a productized
Yeah.
service? Is that the approach?
Yep. And, I started with actually 200 for B, but afterwards moved to 500, 600, and now 800 a banner. Yeah.
Lovely. And so, where
Yeah.
do you kind of want to go with that? Where do you see like the potential?
Well, that's exactly why we started, taking on and creating a bigger offer, like a branding, because banners can reach. I mean, as we saw, can reach like a certain price, and with a profile picture is 1,000 for us. And after we lost a lot of clients because we wanted to increase the price more and more, we realized that we should stay at 1,000, and I think it's the price. But yeah, it's not really scalable up to a point. That's why again we started offering brandings and web design and development
Yeah.
as
Could you tell
well.
me a bit
Yeah.
more about that offer then? Sort of what is included with all of this package then, the bigger offer?
Uh, a logo, a color palette, mock-ups on how it's going to be used for newsletters, for digital products, for physical products, for a future website, for pinned tweet, and overall like the design of a personal, I guess, brand on Twitter. The brand, I mean, the banner, the profile picture, the pinned tweet, and overall the whole like future posts you're gonna post are gonna be in one branding in under one design. So in order to look clean and professional.
Right.
Yeah.
And has that offer taken off? Like, have you noticed like traction? Are people interested in this?
Not really, because I was actually targeting, I guess, mid small creators. When I say mid, is like 5, 10K, because people don't really take it seriously, I guess. And if I were to reach out to someone, it would be definitely like YouTubers or like big creators on Twitter and LinkedIn as well.
Right. Have you thought? Yeah. Go
Yeah,
on.
it's just it makes sense why it doesn't it's not really important for them because they're not selling products where the design is under the branding under the product, or like something more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. I mean, it makes sense. Even in, I mean, in my case, for example, I'm selling videos, animated videos to SaaS companies, and a lot of times that's kind of a similar struggle that I have is just I reach out to different companies, smaller SaaS companies, if you want to say people that are just starting out. You try to it's a lot of it is just kind of trying to convince them of the benefits of a video. Whereas when you go to a bigger brand, they already kind of know that the video is important.
exactly.
They know that everybody's using video, so it's not a matter of like whether they need a video or not. It's just more of like other points, like okay, what price? How long will it take to actually complete the video?
And I actually like this, to be honest. It filters out the so-called bad or like unexperienced clients, which is
Yeah.
good for us, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess since now you're like kind of trying to focus a bit more on that, have you considered, is this something like that's on your mind, sort of reaching out to then the big brands or big influencers and perhaps maybe network with them with the idea of eventually selling your service outright rather than only depending on referrals and word of mouth?
The plan right now, I mean, we have a client at the moment that we should get on Discovery Call and do. I think it's also a SaaS company that he has, but he also wants like a personal redesign for his personal brand. And at the moment, we are not planning on because we don't have to. We have a few clients at the moment, so we are not really desperate. But definitely, if I was in the case that I needed, to another client, and yeah, I would reach out to the big accounts and pitch. I guess depends on the person, because here on Twitter, it's very strategic to choose a client that has friends that you redesign them already. So if you know what I mean. And in that case, I'll definitely send the case study of the person that they know or is friends with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the community effect, is like I like to
exactly.
call it.
Yeah,
And it's I employed similar strategy because I've done a video for like Cold Email Wizard and Andre Halkel Jr., who are like big in the cold email space. So whenever people reach out to me or whenever I reach out to people who are like friends or who know these guys, you just kind of show them one video. It's like, hey, I did this with this guy. Here's a testimonial or here's a case study. And then they're like, you know what? Okay, I mean, you worked with these guys, so I can't
yeah,
say no.
yeah. And most of the times, even if the video or the design is worse, I guess it doesn't matter. The word
It's
from your friend is more important.
a lot of
Yeah,
designers also hate that, right? It's like this idea. Sometimes you hear designers maybe say like, I'm way better than this person, or my work's way better than this person, yet they're still getting a lot more clients than me. Is
yeah.
this something that you've encountered maybe with other designers? You've heard this before, or what's your opinion on this?
I mean, it all comes down to you. It's your fault if you're not getting any.
That's very right. Yes.
Then you're not doing something correctly. That's why I joined Twitter and started, building in public and showing everyone that what I do. So this question doesn't come into my mind.
Right.
It's out there. Yeah.
So did you realize like the power, like, so was it that you were struggling to get clients before and you realized that you needed to kind of step it up and actually work a bit of on marketing, or what was that? What was like the logic here?
There was actually no logic. I was like, let me just start doing it in public and see where we go. And again, with Clifton, that was the luckiest thing. Back then, I didn't realize that, but after some time, I realized I got really lucky. Yeah,
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. That's exactly how it is. And yeah, I
but
think
yeah,
that goes to show how just one client can change the whole direction of a company or
exactly.
freelancer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, if I were to start from zero, like if I wasn't getting lucky, I would continue like writing those phrases, explaining people what I do, how I do, and take a few random friends, I guess, and design for them and use them as case studies. Yeah.
I was about to say, yeah, if somebody does not have that big case study, would you suggest then maybe taking some of the big brands? Like, let's say you didn't work with LB, right? And then like you were like you want, but you want to work with him and you don't have any of these major case studies. Would you suggest maybe the idea of like rebranding for him basically and just kind of tagging him on Twitter in the hopes that he may see the post?
Ideally, yes, but nobody's gonna agree to work with you if you don't have something to back up, with a portfolio. In my case, I was always ready to show my portfolio, my past works, and people don't have questions. Because whenever I send the offer, it's like a PDF where I have a little bit of introduction of myself, but also like my portfolio, and like all the answers are, all the questions are answered. So yeah, you have to back it up with something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, they're not gonna take you seriously. Yeah.
Trust then, right? It's a matter of like
Yeah.
building trust, because even if
Yep.
your work is good, if they don't feel like you will be able to get them results, then they may not be interested in working with you.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have like a certain amount of followers, which people actually judge. So yeah, you
Do
have
you
to differentiate yourself somehow. Yeah.
would you say what would you say is like the golden number for like the Twitter followers? Like if you have would you say like if you reach like the 1,000 mark, do people start taking you more seriously compared to if you have like 100 or 200 followers, or if you have 10,000?
Taking you seriously, definitely. Landing clients, not, because I landed Clifton when I had 400 followers.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on what you're offering and position as. But at the end of the day, people do judge you. But they even judge you more if you have a good following. I mean, a lot of followers, but also decent organic engagement. They look at this combo, because if you have a lot of followers but 2-3 likes per post, everyone knows the trick here.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's then the secret to sort of your engagement? Because you do have a healthy bit of engagement. Like I've seen people that even have more followers than you and they still have less engagement than your post. Does it come down to sort of is there any sort of strategy that you had in place where you commented on other people's posts perhaps and kind of built a network on there, or are your posts just really good? What's the secret sauce, if you want to say?
One word: networking. Everything changed in my personal brand, I guess, journey. As soon as I got on 2 calls, I learned so much, and even more, I created a relationship, and with those two guys, and they started engaging with me. I started engaging with them, and I always engage with them, and they always engage with me. So we are technically boosting each other, and again, it's just building relationships, going on calls, and networking.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
It's not as organic technically, if you know what I
yeah.
mean.
And how did you
Yeah.
figure that out? Was that also a matter of luck, or did you kind of have that strategy in place? You were like, you know what, I need to actually reach out to some of these big accounts and just sort of try to actually build something with them.
It doesn't actually matter how their size. You just, they can have 100 followers, you can have 100 followers. As it doesn't matter if they engage with you. That's what really matters. Yeah.
Right.
The number, I guess. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. And maybe I want to switch a bit of focus towards like designers in general. Doesn't necessarily have to be designers that are doing anything related to personal branding. We're just talking designers in general. What are some of the common mistakes that some designers would you say are doing in general when it comes to sort of why they're struggling to get more clients for their business or for their service?
Not building in public or like a personal brand, because as I've said, I was a freelancer, and everyone knows what it feels like to be a freelancer. You can't really land clients, or you always like are afraid like, am I gonna land him or no, or all this stress. And it's just start a public a personal brand where you share everything, and you know basically organic reach. It's actually that simple. You just
Right.
show your work and what you do online, and people see it and they reach out, because that's how every client of mine came by me, and we started working because they just saw my content, nothing else. Yeah.
Right.
And also, like, a lot of clients came to me after I posted some personal stuff, or some jokes and or some food that I eat, and they like the food, and we already are friends. So the key is like breaking this client, um, me and the client, like this, let's say, contract, and actually becoming friends and be genuine. Because most of the times that's what clients work. They just want to trust you and work together, but not as a contract. Like I give you this, you give me this. Yeah.
Right. And have you considered maybe other platforms as well? Because as you mentioned, like Twitter, it helps a lot. It has that community vibe, especially the whole design space and the money Twitter space. People kind of know each other. Maybe on other platforms, maybe like LinkedIn, for example, it's not as much as that. So have you thought about these platforms, maybe LinkedIn, or even perhaps, platforms that are usually used by freelancers, such as Upwork and Fiverr? Have you considered those two?
Upwork and Fiverr, definitely no. I wouldn't even bother, to be honest. The competition there is so high. People are ready to do like websites for $300, which is, I mean, depends where you live, but that doesn't sound so fulfilling. But definitely, I was actually on one space where Dakota Robinson's, you probably might know him, and he
Yes.
said that 80% of his leads come from LinkedIn and only 20 from Twitter. So I think that explains it perfectly. LinkedIn is more career work oriented, and more people are, know design and the importance around it. So if there was a move that I would take, is definitely slowly move towards LinkedIn, because that's
Right.
where most of the clients will come. Yeah.
And have you thought about that a bit more deeply, like sort of what your approach would be? Would it be the similar to approach to Twitter, or would you kind of adopt it to fit more the platform LinkedIn itself?
Yeah, again, like LinkedIn is more professional, and there is less personality in there. That's why I chose Twitter over it. But if I were to start right now, I would definitely just repost my tweets there, or like the long form post that I wrote there. And I guess still do what I do on Twitter and add a little bit of personality. I think I can differentiate myself with that. And yeah, it's actually pretty much the same, to be honest. LinkedIn is way easier. For example, I started in January on LinkedIn as well, but I decided to put all my eggs in one basket and stick with Twitter. But when I was on LinkedIn back then, um, what worked and still works now are long form posts and carousels, which especially carousels, as a designer, it's a bargain for us. So yeah. um yeah, I mean, nothing like, nothing special, no strategy, just posting. Yeah. But mainly, again, long form on carousels, because they get the most action.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we can go back to circle back on the topic of pricing. So before you were
Yeah.
talking about the different price points that you've used. How do you what's the approach that you use with pricing usually? Is it that you just kind of test out different pricing in the market, or do you look at what other people perhaps are charging, or do you look at what the company or the person that you're approaching, how much they're making, and do you price based on that? Like what's the process like for you?
With banners, it's a fixed price, because it makes sense. But when it comes to branding, we go on a discovery call, and they tell me everything they need. Maybe they need something more, maybe less, maybe they don't need mockups. And after that, of course, we check out their company. If they make stacks, then we offer a bigger price, or if they want like something way big, like a longer project, then we take that into account as well. But at the end of the day, we just we have like a hourly rate, and we choose the price around that. Yeah, how much time it's gonna take, and yeah,
Love
it's
it.
very individual. But of course, we start from like one point, and in the discovery call, we say that the budget must be at least X, and yeah, so everyone understands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you mentioned before, like you don't currently face any problems with regards to clients. You have a lot of clients right now. You're working with enough. Like, how many clients are you working with on average, like every month?
Four, I would say. Four. And that's actually a good point here, because that's why you also want to move towards like bigger projects, like one project but 1 month. Because with banners and profiles, it's if there's 4 clients, they're like you sent an email, they haven't received it, or they read it the other day, and 1 week of work actually turns in 10 days, you know so that's why it's also great to have like a higher offer, like a branding, because you have only one client, you talk with them and spend time, like waste 3 4 days, but that's it. The rest are only work, but with more clients there's more headache, more problems, and so on. Yeah.
Right. No, it totally makes a lot of sense. And let's see here. I guess we were talking earlier, sort of about how you're working alone, and with the client load. Like, let's say, for example, you do have 4 clients. Have you maybe thought about, instead of working with one client every month, maybe the approach would be like you could work with more clients, but then you could actually build a team, maybe have other freelancers on board
Yeah.
with you, maybe even go with the agency model. Has that been something that's kind of crossed your mind?
I actually don't work alone. I work with my partner
Yep.
then, but I was actually thinking, of taking some freelancers and design, them for me. But when it comes to design, I guess it's your reputation and it's your style, and it's very hard to find a designer that matches your style and your overall vibe. And definitely not now, because we consider ourselves a boutique studio. So there's only 2 of us, and with the websites, and our friend of ours comes to develop them. But at the moment, just keeping it for ourselves, and just learning, because we are still young, and we are in the design game a few years, but we still want to learn and get better, and only afterwards start hiring people and getting more serious.
Right.
Yeah.
And how are the roles split between the two of you? What are you handling, and what is your partner handling?
I guess I'm the face of the brand, obviously, because I write the content, I do all that, I speak with the clients, and yeah. But when it comes to my partner, he mainly designs, or when we take, like, should we increase the price, or how much we charging this guy or this girl, then he also helps me. But I guess just design and a little bit of business, but the rest is me. Yeah.
Right. Love it. It's actually a really good combination. I think a lot of freelancers or even agencies, like, they struggle with this part where they kind of have one part figured out, which is usually the design part, but then they don't
Yeah.
have somebody that's maybe as good of a marketer, or that has the time available to actually go out there, post content, or reach out to people. So it becomes a bit of a struggle in terms of getting
Yeah.
clients. And unless they actually figure out how to get these clients from, like, a word of mouth, they end up with going weeks sometimes without any projects in the pipeline.
Exactly, and it's way more easier, especially as a designer, because a lot of designers have the imposter syndrome. Is this right? Is this good design? Is this not? But keeping yourself, accountable with a friend or with your partner, it's 10 times easier. I'd rather be paid less, but have more projects and have less stress, and enjoy the process more, because
Right.
that's what's
And
all
I
about.
assume
Yeah.
your business partner, you guys work together in person, or are you, like, away from each other?
We are away from each other, but we use mainly Figma, and on Figma you can design together. When it comes to Photoshop, it doesn't really matter. We are still, speaking online, and yeah, it's actually no problem. Remote, yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
regarding communities, we talked a bit about Twitter and how it has that community vibe. There are also a lot of, if you want to say, people on Twitter that build their own separate communities away from the Twitter platform itself. Maybe they have a coaching program, maybe they have a sort of like a program where, or like a course, for example, where they have a lot of people sort of meet up and they have something in common. Is that something that you're part of? Have you joined any of these communities? Do you see the benefits of these communities?
definitely you should join any community, because you're basically niching down. It's just easier. Currently, I'm in the X Money, Twitter Money community, which is where I am. I've always been, to be honest. Um, Mainly because back then I was more oriented to a personal brand, how to grow, how to engage, and I developed all the relationships here. But if I were a designer, I would definitely start in the design community, and that's what I'm actually slowly moving towards is the design community, but not the Twitter money community because I no longer post, tweets on how to grow faster or get more engagement as it's not really interesting to me. But I think the money Twitter community is good in a way because you learn a lot. You learn how to grow, how to engage, how to get good engagement, how to learn clients, marketing, and all these skills. And yeah, I don't regret it. It's just it's not really my thing anymore, and that's why I'm slowly moving towards the design part.
Makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And I guess a lot. I guess the last question that I have here, maybe it's really more focused towards like the audience itself. Any advice, any like sort of advice that you may have to offer to any designer that is sort of struggling to acquire customers at the moment, who maybe their work is good or maybe not so good. Like, what is it that they could do perhaps to kind of like increase their chances of actually making this work, so that they can actually create a career out of it?
If we are talking about a designer who's actually good, let's set that parameter. Then definitely as I've said before, how I did engage with people, a network, get on calls, build those relationships. Because the problem is not that your work is bad or your tweet is bad; it's just nobody sees it. And what's the point of it? And you know maybe your design is not that good, but when five people in the comments who are going to be your friends, they're going to say, oh, this is the best design I've ever seen, then a little bit, the perspective of those who read will change. And it's not as organic, and it shouldn't be at the start because the competition is really high. And, you have to break the rules a little bit and make it, I guess, a little bit more cheaty and put those comments in, but after a while it's going to get more traction and you're going to grow organically. And yeah, but definitely networking, friends, and it doesn't matter what niche you are, a designer, a videographer, a video editor, architect, it doesn't really matter. You just have to build those relationships so more people can see you and your stuff. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ionutz. And before we leave, could you just maybe let the audience know how they can find more information about you? Where could they follow you, perhaps? Or you have a website? Anything you want to plug in?
We're building actually our website at the moment, but until then, you can check out my Twitter. Follow
All
me
right.
there. I share my personal stuff and
Yeah.
some design stuff as well. So yeah,
Lovely.
yeah,
Thank you so much, Ionutz. It was a pleasure having you. And we'll stay in touch, hopefully.
yeah. Thank you, Farouk, for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it for sure.
Bye bye.
Bye.